Welcome back to The Line. New Mexico leads the nation in its dependence on the federal dollar. Our state again topped personal finance website WalletHub's list of states most dependent on government money. And Crystal, can we ever break? I want to ask you as a business owner. I like you coming from this point of view here. That day, that glorious day when we can break free from this dependence on the federal government.
Yes.
Can we actually get there? Do you see enough from your point of view? You work a lot around business organizations and stuff. Are we going to get there eventually? Is it
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I find really interesting is that sometimes people don't quite understand what federal contracting looks like. And so business owners can be independent of the federal government themselves and actually contract with the United States Navy, like what we did, or working with the Army, et cetera. But one of the things that I think is really important that people forget about is the term technology transfer, that bases in federal jobs and federal government science, things that were created can actually become commercialized, and there's not enough happening. Sandia does a good job with it, especially with the different resources that they provide, but we have two other bases here in New Mexico, especially me living close to Cannon Air Force Base. Rarely do you hear about technology transfer out of those two specific bases. And so, yes, there is, but there has to be that public-private partnership to really build upon that dependency. Also, was working with various different business organizations too. One of the things that we commonly hear is that brain drain. I hate the phrase. I call myself a return to sender, meaning somebody that decided to come home and live with my parents, whatever that is.
That's right.
So
you wouldn't be alone on that.
Yeah,
right.
but the really interesting thing is what people forget is the type of jobs that people are applying for at the base means that this issue actually directly correlates to the brain drain. And how it directly correlates to the brain drain is that if you have a physicist, a scientist, a data analyst that has been at Sandia National Labs for over 30 years, it's hard for a person that has gone to grad school, that graduated in 2015, to get either a federal job at the level of dollars, or get a private job at the level of dollars that a base can have. And so luckily there are companies like RS21, companies like RiskSense, things that Albuquerque Economic Development are really trying to bring to the area, is high-paying dollar jobs with high education, and gaining more opportunities to build upon those jobs and build upon those companies. And luckily, all we need is just the proper investments to invest into those companies, and we can be less federally dependent.
I love that. Good for you. That makes a lot of sense. Christine Sierra, you liking what you're hearing?
I like the hope in that one.
Yes.
When I first came to New Mexico and started my research on New Mexico and looking at politics and the economy, what I quickly learned from colleagues and just kind of the scuttlebutt was that, well, we don't really economically, the state doesn't have to endure the major lows, but on the other hand, we don't
the common refrain,
the advantage of the major highs, and the buffer was the federal dollars.
Right. That's right.
Well, when the federal dollars started shrinking or getting channeled in different areas, we really got hit.
That's right.
And so our recovery from the recession of 2008, 2009, oh my gosh, it's been so difficult. But I like to think of the hope in Netflix, the hope maybe in harnessing our space program, not just to send rich people up into outer space, but maybe UNM, I know, is very interested in harnessing the science of it and in education of both graduate students and undergrads. So I think there are some hopeful signs.
Sophie, when you think about the idea that, I appreciate what Crystal mentioned about tech transfer. We've been hearing this for a long time now. We love the bases, they do great for us, they put a lot of money in our collective pockets here, but something doesn't seem to be quite getting there on the tech transfer thing. There are some hits, no doubt, but you would think they'd be spilling out of every door and window out of the place into the private side here. Could we be doing better?
I mean, there's certainly limitations on that.
That's right.
And I mean, some things just can't be transferred out.
That's true.
It's interesting to me, we always talk about this dependency, but in some ways, isn't this an investment that the federal government has made in our state? And we know that the Albuquerque area, for instance, is extraordinarily high in the percentage of PhDs living here because of Sandia Labs, because of our investment from the federal government. And so, yeah, we can look at it as dependence, but I think to the point we heard earlier, there is this question of how do we earn that investment? I'm not actually bothered by the amount of money that comes into New Mexico from the federal government. I think that's a net positive for us. I mean, I have some issues with some of the projects that they're putting together, but you know, that's another matter. You know, I think we would be foolish to say, "Oh, we don't want that money. Oh, we don't want that stuff." What we're missing is development of other industries.
That's right.
And I think additional development in keeping the money here.
That's right.
We don't want the tech transfer to end up, you know, being a company that goes to Palo Alto. We don't really want projects going to Oak Ridge, which is another major national lab. We want to, if I think, maybe I sound Pollyanna, but like send us more federal dollars.
Sure.
You know,
I'm hearing you.
Let's take as much as we can, build as many private companies as we can around that. Acknowledging, you know, to Christine's point, there's that discussion of like no highs, no lows. But what we're finding is that while we thought that the military in particular was bulletproof, that the Democrats would say, oh, we can't really cut spending. The Republicans would say, we want to increase spending.
That's right.
That's not really happening anymore.
Right.
That's been turned on its head, as so many things have under this administration. Will we return to that security? Right. It's hard to say. But we are in an unusual position right now in this 4-year period because of what President Trump has been doing. And I think one example of that is this idea that they're going to claw back money that's been allocated for bases in New Mexico and use it on border wall funding instead. And it's a big story right now.
That's right. That first sequestration was the big wake-up call on that, you know, when the spigot can actually just go off. Senator, interesting, I had a conversation when our mayor, Tim Keller, first got in office. I said to him something that's appropriate for this discussion, I think, that let's find a way to honor risk takers here. If you really want to change the culture in Albuquerque in the business sense, honor people who take a risk, because that's what business people do. That's what Crystal does.
Yeah.
You know, they take a risk. They put it out there. They put their finances, their friends' finances, their family's finances. Those people have to be honored here. They're not just employees of the state. What do you think about that? And just get more people interested in being entrepreneurs in the first place.
I think the concept is fabulous. I think the reality is a little more mundane. I think it's just like, get rid of the federal dollars? You gotta be kidding me.
Right.
That is, I think we need to look at it as this is a part of our funding in our state. It's part of our economy. Where I believe we failed is, I think we've all kind of touched on this, is we haven't developed enough other areas. I mean, I remember in the horrible, horrible fights about the movie industry.
Sure.
In New Mexico.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing, okay, we got a few problems with it, but it's working.
Right.
I mean, we did something
living.
right, we're
That's
making
right.
it work. The spaceport will come into, I swear it will come into its own at some point because it's part of our history. It's another federal thing, you know, and they're looking at trying to get the not Air Force, but the Space Department.
Wait, do you mean
Space Force, right?
No, Space Force,
okay.
yes,
Right.
Space Force.
We got really excited for that one.
But they're looking to locate that in New Mexico. Why
heard that.
not?
Right.
I mean,
And
I mean, let's keep once again, let's build on what we're doing right.
Yeah.
And then instead of, I believe in New Mexico, and I've been watching for many, many years, is we tend to go, oh, this, oh, this, oh, this, oh, that. Let's say, okay, this is working. Let's shore it up and make sure it's strong.
Right.
I will.
Two quick points,
Yeah.
starting with Christine.
But the going this and the that takes us to President Trump and his clawback or his reallocation of dollars that should be going to construction projects for the military.
Yeah, but none of those are contracted yet. There are only 2 that are scheduled to be contracted in 2019. The rest are all in 2020.
When the news is out that they're also going to affect military housing, and
right.
we're looking.
Regrettably, I got to make that the
Not
last
Mexico.
point. We're plumb up against time. Thank you for coming in,
Thank
Crystal.
you very much.
Good to have you. It's all the time we have to leave that conversation there for now, but we want to know what you have to say about this issue, or if you have any ideas for another topic. Drop us a line at NewMexicoInFocus.org or weigh in on Facebook or Twitter.